Welcome. I'm Bruce Palmquist, and I apologize I can't be with you today. I'm off in the Midwest helping my mom do some things. But I teach physics and science education classes at Central Washington University. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit, sharing some things with you. A little bit later, I will be asking you to input some things too. So this is a Google presentation, Google Slides, I believe it's called. And I made this into a short link. So if somebody here has a computer, and I know you do, you're probably on it right now saying, oh, we're watching a video, I can play around with the computer. Well, that's okay, but you can do something useful as well. Go to this Google short link, goo.gl / and make sure you've got the proper uppercase and lowercase letters, uppercase REQ, and then lowercase ZBP. And by the way, short links are great ways to share links with students because, you know, whenever you link, you pick a URL and it's got about 70 characters or something, and sometimes they're random characters, letters, numbers, capitalized, you know you're bound to make a mistake. So short links are great ways to share links with students. Some of you have probably seen bit.ly, or there's also tinyURL, but Google has their own. So this is what I look like. You're going to spend most of the time, though, looking at the actual slides. I'm going to go over some resources, a few resources that some of the Running Start Cornerstone teachers have used. Earlier in 2015, a couple teachers and I put together a little professional development video in which we talked more extensively about some of these resources. So I'm not going to do that again. One of those teachers may be sitting in the room with you right now, so you could certainly ask them about that. But I'll just briefly go over a few of those things. And then I'll also talk a little bit about resources. And by the way, those are generally available resources that anybody can use. Then I will talk about some resources that Central Washington University has that as one of our instructors, you can definitely use those resources as well. And then I want to get some feedback from you. And by the way, I'm using a Google Hangout here. And if I make it as a Hangout on air, it will be recorded as a YouTube video. So you're actually watching it as a YouTube video. But this is another great way to either interact with students. So you can, this is just a way to make a video and you can grab things from Google. You can grab YouTube videos. You can look at any other websites. This is how I hold my office hours when I teach a class online. But you can also interact with other physics teachers or other teachers in general this way as well. So if you've got other teachers in your district, you can be in your building. And it's sort of like Skype, but I like this better than Skype. Although I've heard Skype has some new functionality now that it's been purchased by Microsoft. I don't know if it's better or worse. Anyway, just our outline here. I've put some Physics 111 and 112 resources, so CWU's Physics 111 and 112 class resources in a shared Google Drive. If anybody would like to be, if you have a Google account, and I can share the drive with you, or anybody that has this link here can go to the drive. So I just clicked on the link, and these are some of the things that are available. Some PhET simulations, that's from the University of Colorado. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. My tests, this last fall, I taught Physics 111 online for the first time. But otherwise, I hadn't taught Physics 111 for quite a while. But I put here the two tests that I had, my final and my mid-quarter exam, plus my formula sheet, plus the test objectives as well. So this will give you a great idea of the types of things that I do when I teach Physics 111. Also in the folder are a list of the objectives, the major objectives in Physics 111 and 112. And really, so that's what I'm pointing to here, and then what I'm pointing to right here. Those are super wordy. I actually have been saying this for about 2 years now. I need to pare that down into the really key objectives. I actually took this from one of our other professors who likes to have a very extensive list of objectives. Here is a syllabus. This is the syllabus. I think this is the syllabus I used. Yeah, so this is the syllabus I used last fall quarter when I taught the class online. So you can see the homework schedule and so on. You obviously have your own schedule constraints, so you're not going to be beholden to these exact days. And then here's an outline for the professional development video we did. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. In the professional development video from February, we talked about Openstax, which is an open source textbook. This is a great way. You can either use it as another resource for yourself or your students, or you could use it as your actual book. There are some physics teachers, high school physics teachers, that have used this Openstax college textbook. It's not a fantastic book, but it's not a bad book either. It's probably as good as it's definitely, I've looked them over, it's definitely as good as sort of your standard high school physics textbook. Expertia is an online homework system that we use here at Central Washington University. It's a very small company. They only have physics online homework. There are other companies, Pearson, the big publisher Pearson, they have an online homework system too, but they have a whole lot of resources for a whole lot of different sciences, physics, chemistry, geology, geography, engineering, and so on. I like the Expertia. It's lower cost as well. I showed you the online simulations folder. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then some resources for you from Central. Maybe I should put that down. You can see this presentation is evolving as you watch it. Professional development videos. Notice I have plural here. So far, there's only one, but I'd like to do at least one and maybe two even a year. And a little bit later, I'll have you brainstorm some ideas from me. CESME, this is the Center for Excellence in Science and Mathematics Education, an organization at Central Washington University that has a lot of resources as well. And then, of course, the CWU Physics Department, the personnel and our equipment, those are also resources for you because you, as teachers of the physics class, are members of the physics department. So just briefly here, going over this. And by the way, if now you're kind of interested saying, oh, I don't really want to write down all those URLs, don't forget, all you need to do is write down this URL right here, and then you can go to the presentation. So I mentioned Openstax College Physics. This is a book that you can use. You can use it many different ways, or you can access it, many different ways. You can actually get a print version. Dennis Anderson at Trout Lake School, he actually has his student print shop print out the chapters he needs, which is obviously just a subset of the book. You can download a PDF, and of course, almost anybody can read PDFs on any computer. You can download it as an EPUB, which a lot of ebook readers use, or you can read it also live on the web. I'm not sure what Bookshare is. I think it's still available also as an iBook in the iTunes store as well. I know I got it that way. So just taking a quick look at the web view. Notice how I blew by the donation part. So you can go to any chapter. Let's just go to the kinematics chapter, acceleration. So you can see this looks a lot like the book that you're using. Formulas for acceleration, little boxes here, insets that describe the important concepts, pictures. So here's a subway train that is slowing down. So it's got the velocity vector in one direction because it's going sort of from from way into the page coming out towards you, but since it's slowing down, the acceleration is in the opposite direction. So little things like that, lots of diagrams in the book. The expert TA, that was especially, we use an online homework system for almost all of our first year physics classes. You are probably less likely to do that, much less likely to do that, but there are some advantages to that as well. So, and they of course want you to use it, so they have all sorts of information here about benefits to the instructor. And there's a little page here about that's geared towards physics teachers at the high school level as well. One thing that's really good about this is they've worked hard on developing a feedback system for analytic problems. There are some that are like this on the expert TA, where you just input a letter or a number, but where the expert TA really shines is in its ability to enter a formula. So for example, there's a force diagram or a free body diagram, depending on what you want to call it. And it might ask you to, it might ask the student to write the equation for the sum of the forces in the x direction. Well, that's a pretty complicated thing. If you've got a cart on a ramp, for example, it's off at an angle. So you've got potentially sines of theta, cosines of theta. You've got negatives, positives, ups, downs, lefts, rights, and so on. That can be difficult to give feedback for, but they've really developed an algorithm to do that well. Of the three things on this slide, this is probably the item that you're most likely to be familiar with. The University of Colorado has these different simulations. They started just in physics, but now you can see that biology, chemistry, earth science, math, all sorts of different levels. They've created a lot of, or they're moving a lot of the demonstrations to HTML5, which means that you can use them on tablets as well. So a lot more variability in terms of what you can use them on, and it will label the ones that are HTML5 versus the ones that are JavaScript. So you can see all these different areas of physics where you want to, for physics 111, most of that's going to be motion. So here are all of the ones that relate to motion. And if you look at any one of these, let's just pick skate park basics. You can download it, but if you click on for teachers, there are teacher tips. So an overview of the controls and insights into student thinking. And that's actually, separating it out like that is actually new. The teacher tips used to be a little bit more difficult to find. This makes it jump out at you more. And then there are activities that you can download as well that have been created by teachers. You can actually do this as well. You see this share an activity. You need to have an account. I happen to have an account, but it's easy to do. You can then upload your own activities for other teachers to use. So those are the general resources. Some other resources here that, like I said, are available to you as a faculty member at CWU. So you put that down on your resume. In fact, if you're playing around on your computer right now, you should update your resume. And this is me again looking at you just to make sure that you recognize a human. This is not a computer voice. Anyway, you can, we've got my calendar, my cat calendar there, the picture that my son drew, my degree, so I am credentialed. So the very first professional development video that we did, okay, so we're live. Not too exciting. I'm sitting here in the office, but you can go through this and you'll learn a little bit more about the expert TA, and about the Openstax book. This is something that will be a potential really good resource for you, probably these next two, because what I've shown you so far, those are websites, those are things, inanimate objects, even though I would look pretty animated in this YouTube video, still a video. But these are different ways, two ways to interact with people at Central Washington University. So the first link I want to go to is CWU. And CWU is basically Central Washington University's outreach arm. So you can see in the banner there that's flipping back and forth, this one right here, the yellow that you just missed, is the Quest Summer Camp. So kids in the community can go to a one-week summer camp taught by Central Washington University students who are studying to be teachers. Science is Central, that's last year's, but we do that every year toward the beginning of the school year. During the day, we have lectures, demos, field trips for kids. At night, we have public lectures. Nature of Night, again, that's last year's. That's on a Saturday. Lots of science activities. So if you're near Ellensburg, these are some things that you can get involved in. Some of you may have heard of First Robotics. We host a lot of those competitions as well. But CWU membership. So if you become a member of CWU, that allows you to check out our material. And I'm not in charge of keeping track of this. We have a full-time employee and a graduate student who is in charge of CWU, the outreach, and the giving out of materials as well. But if you're interested in that at all, yeah, you saw the link that I went to just off the CWU page, and it's a web form. And then when you fill that out, then our CWU outreach coordinator and or graduate student will look at that and make contact with you. So the only way to access the resources of the Center for Excellence in Science and Math Education is to be a member of CWU, and it's free to be a member of CWU. It's quite possible that someone sitting in the room with you right now is a member of CWU. Look around, it's the person that looks very proud and highly informed. Yeah, so here, equipment is available to check out. So there's a list of equipment right here. And the different categories, we're always updating this. So just keep looking. If there's something here that you don't see that you hope that Central would have, contact one of the two people here, either our CWU technician, and that's an undergraduate student, or Price, she's the outreach coordinator, so one of those two. Or if you're in the neighborhood, come to the Central Washington campus, science building. We have lots of buildings that have science in it, but there's one that's called Science, room 107. And I'm going to close some of these windows here because it's getting overwhelming for me. Items that we're probably not going to visit again. The physics department, I want to highlight this just for a couple of different reasons. One is if you have students that are interested in majoring in physics, certainly have them consider Central. Lots of advantages to coming to Central. You can see we've got our standard small bullet point list there. Small classes, so even our first year classes are taught in the same way that a good high school physics teacher would teach her or his class. It's not in a big lecture hall. Larger than the classes that you are teaching. Most of them are in the freshman year, maybe 40 to 50 students in a class, but it's not just sitting and listening to a lecture for the whole time. It integrates lecture and lab together. So there'll be maybe a little bit of lecture, a little bit of problem solving, a short lab activity, maybe one of the PhET activities. And again, if you're in the area, come by and hang out with us for a day. Watch us teach some classes. Tell us the things that you think we're doing well, and tell us the things that you think we could be doing better. That would be great. We've had some teachers who come and visit us for the day. They also love talking to our department technician. We've always had really good technicians who like to work with teachers and students, help build things. So avail yourself of that opportunity. All of our students work on a research project, and that research project could be something that ends up being published in a journal. It's definitely something that students will present at our campus-wide symposium. Some students like to build things for their research projects, so if more of a hands-on student can do that. Students who are interested in teaching could do an education-related research project, so give some sort of a pre-test, create some sort of a lesson, then give a post-test, and figure out what went well, what didn't go well. I think that is the important stuff from this page. Again, faculty and staff. So the department technician, Peter Zenshock, and then all of the faculty members are here as well. So you can read about their different areas of interest. So if you've got kids interested in acoustics or computational physics, astronomy, we've got a good astronomy or stronger astronomy program than we have in the past, because we've hired basically a space physicist, geophysicist, astronomer. We've hired a biophysicist, actually two. Aaron just started this last year, and then we hired a new professor who'll be starting in the fall of 2015. What we can do for you, one of the things, we want to visit you. I try to visit all of the Running Start Cornerstone classes. I haven't been very successful. I've been doing a lot of teaching and administrative work. This upcoming year, 2015, 2016, I'll actually be chair of the two departments that I am in, which means I do more of the things I don't like, administration, and less of what I do like, teaching. But it does mean that I will have more flexibility, either to come and visit your school, more schedule flexibility, or we're hiring someone to be more involved in recruiting and outreach and that sort of thing. So that person may come and visit your school as well. We can talk about, again, the best ways that we can serve you, and that's going to be some input that I'd like from you in a bit. Another resource that we are is that you come and visit us, or your students come and visit us. We have a lot of students come on campus. You can do a campus visit. If you're interested in that, there's actually a way from our website, the Central Washington University website, to reserve that. And if you're interested, I can tell you about that. But come here, tour the department, see one of our demo shows. We have a new building that is opening soon. And actually, I'm going to go to the SESME page because that has the camera here. So this is a live shot, live from when I'm recording this. Obviously, if you're watching this at a later date, it's not live. The one below it is pretty neat. This is a time lapse. So from essentially ground preparation to what you see up here in 13 minutes. We'll be moving into this building in the fall of 2016. Well, over the summer. The first time that students will be using it will be the fall of 2016. Physics will be in there, geology will be in there, and also SESME, which I mentioned before, will be in there. That's actually why they have the camera link on their page. So visiting us in this building, we'll have all new labs. We'll actually have a planetarium in this building. On the roof, you can't quite see it, but this is the observatory prep area, and then just behind the building, right next to the building, but actually not foundationally attached because the telescope needs a different kind of shock absorbing system underneath to cut down on vibrations than the rest of the building. So it's isolated foundation wise, but it'll be up against the building. It'll look like it's part of the building, one and the same. So we'll have lots of resources in this new building as well for you to see. Even in the next year, 2015, 2016, come and see us in our old building as well. So what I'd like you to do now, either using the computer that you're watching the video from, open up this presentation, or if somebody happens to have it opened up now, you're probably in not a very big group, you can just get around that person's computer. And I'd like you to type in some ideas for future professional development. So things that similar to the video that I just very briefly shared before, where I talked more about, where we talked about the Openstax book, two teachers and I talked about the Openstax physics, college physics, and the expert TA. You probably don't want to hear about that again, because you can watch that video and then you can ask me questions and I can direct you to the proper resources. But what are some other things that we can help you with in terms of professional development, either about physics in the broad sense, teaching in the broad sense, teaching the physics 111, 112 sequence? Type those on this slide or the next slide. And if there are going to be a bunch of these running start Cornerstone workshops around the state. So if you're one of the later ones, you may have this slide and this slide filled up. So just create a new slide, or you can just make the print tinier on these slides as well, because I'll be looking at it. If there are 50 bullet points on each of these slides with size 4 font, I'll just make it bigger and put them on more slides. Because I think being a teacher here for Running Start, you should get something out of this too. It shouldn't just be what you're doing for us. Yeah, you're teaching classes for Central and you're getting the Central name out there, and you're getting a Central little banner or something in your room, giving out Central stickers, but you should be getting something out of this as well. So that's why it's important for you to fill that out. And these are more professional development things. So think of something that probably any physics teacher in the country would want to know about. Maybe they wouldn't care so much about physics 111 at Central per se, but teaching an algebra-based physics class, they might. And then on the next slide, or the next two slides, right? This one's empty right now. That goes with the professional development. And there's probably some overlap here a little bit, but how can the CWU physics department help you? So in terms of, what are some things that we could lend you? What are some human resources? Would you like a physics faculty member? Would it be useful for you if a physics faculty member came to your school and talked about her or his area of research? Or would it be helpful if you gave our department technician an idea for a demo to build and then had him build it? And if we like it, we'll probably build two of them, just like in the movie Contact, right? That thing that went across the galaxy. The rich guy built two. So just whatever. I can't guarantee that we will definitely be able to do what it is that you say, but if we don't know what you're thinking and what you need, then we certainly won't do it. And maybe we won't do it in the way that you want it done, but perhaps there's something else, and maybe you'll give us an idea, we'll come back with a counter idea, and you'll say, you know what, that's better than my initial idea. But we won't know any of this until we hear from you. So as I said at the beginning, I'd like to interact like this a little bit more often, not just you watching a video, but you actually participating in a Google Hangout, because you folks are all around the state, and you might be the only physics teacher for 50 miles around, maybe the only physics teacher in your district. But rest assured, there are a lot of other physics teachers around. We at CWU, we consider ourselves physics teachers. Yeah, I mean, we have the name professor, but we teach physics. We just teach it sometimes at a similar level to you, other times at a higher level than you for the sophomore, junior, and senior classes. But still, we teach physics. We always have students and faculty members that show up at the Washington AAPT meeting, American Association of Physics Teachers meeting. So I would encourage you to go to that as well, and I'll give you reminders of that. That's usually in October or November. So you'll be hearing from me or the new person that we hired to be engaged more in physics outreach, because I'd like to do more of these interactive videos. But right now, your Facebook is calling you. I understand that. If you have any questions about things, definitely email me. Remind you of my email again. It's just the first 8 letters of my last name. When I started at Central, usernames were limited to 8 characters. So that's why we've got the 8 characters. I kind of like it now. It has sort of a French feel to it. But anyway, email me, ask questions. Make sure that you provide some input on the slides, as I said as well. And most important, thank you for doing this. By teaching a class in which students get college credit, some students are getting college credit, and that's benefiting them, whether they're getting it through the Running Start model in which the state pays, or they're doing it through a model in which parents pay, or maybe the school district pays, the Cornerstone model. Or the students in your class that aren't taking it for college credit, they're getting the benefit because you're teaching the class at a slightly higher level. So they're getting the benefit of a great physics class, even if they don't get the credit for it. So thank you for doing that. For Central, hopefully for yourself, that's why I want to hear what sort of professional development you're interested in, and for your students. Thanks again. And do I have anything else interesting to point out just to go? Oh, yes, I can point this out. When our our family went to San Francisco, we got a piece of cable. They sell that as a souvenir. My wife had it in her carry-on bag, and when she put it through the X-ray machine, showed it, of course, rang an alarm for them. And my wife said, "Oh man, I wonder what's in there." You know, this really thick, dense metal. They thought it was some sort of weapon, so they dug through her stuff. Sure enough, it was just our souvenir cable. So warning to you, if you do go to San Francisco, get a souvenir cable. If you have a checked bag, put your cable slice in the checked bag. That's my pragmatic word of wisdom for the day. Thanks again.